midnight drearies.
I got stung by a bee where I go pee-pee. John was a normal guy who lived a normal life, with one exception. He was deathly allergic to bee stings. He always carried an EpiPen with him just in case. But he had never been stung before, so he didn't know how his body would react. One sunny day, John was out doing yard work, mowing the lawn and tending to his garden. He was wearing loose shorts, very loose shorts. As he bent down to pull a weed, he felt a sharp pain in his groin. He jumped up, swatting at the spot where he had been stung, falling over in pain from his own incompetence. He saw a bee buzzing angrily away. John felt a wave of panic wash over him. He knew he was in trouble. He fumbled for his EpiPen, but his hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold it. He managed to inject himself with the medicine and collapsed back down to the grass, gasping for air. After a few minutes, John started to feel a bit better. The pain in his wiener had subsided, and he could breathe easier. He knew he had narrowly avoided a close call and vowed to be more careful in the future. But little did John know that the bee that had stung him was no ordinary bee. It was a mutant bee that had been genetically modified in a secret government lab to be stronger, faster, and more aggressive than any other bee on the planet, and it had injected John with a venom that would change him forever. That night, John started to feel strange. He felt a tingling sensation all over his body, as if he were being poked by tiny needles. His skin started to itch, and he felt a sudden urge to scratch himself all over. But the most alarming change was happening to his magic stick, the spot where he had been stung by the mutant bee. The skin started to swell and turn red, and John could see something moving under the surface. He tried to ignore it at first, hoping it was just a side effect of the EpiPen or his allergy medication, but the itching and the swelling only got worse, and John started to worry that something was seriously wrong. The next morning, John woke up to find that his pee-pee had grown to 3 times its normal size. It was bright red and covered in what looked like little bumps or pustules. He tried to ignore it and went about his day, but he could feel a strange energy coursing through his body. As the days passed, John's condition worsened. The swelling had spread to his legs and arms, and he felt a strange prickling sensation all over his body. He had trouble sleeping and had developed a fever, but he refused to go to the doctor because he was embarrassed about his condition. Then one night, something strange happened. John was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when he felt a sudden urge to scratch his engorged Willy Wonka. He reached down and started to scratch, and he felt a sudden jolt of electricity shiver-shake him to his core. He sat up in bed, feeling something strange happening to his cock-a-doodle-doo. It was as if it had a mind of its own, writhing and twisting under his fingers. He tried to pull his hand away, but it was like his hand was stuck to his super salami. Then, to his horror, John realized that pee-hole of his wonder worm had become a mouth. A tiny puckered mouth that was opening and closing as if it were trying to speak. "Feed me!" the mouth whispered as it dick-whipped in his grip. John screamed and tried to pull his hand away, but the mouth had grown teeth and they had sunk deep into his flesh. He tried to pry the mouth off, but it was surprisingly strong and he could feel it sucking his blood. John began to panic, but couldn't pull free from the terrible trouser snake. He passed out from loss of blood. Instead of getting his dick sucked him to death.